You don't have to plan a trip to take a trip. I know it sounds crazy, but in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. If planning a trip feels like it's stressful, it's overwhelming, it's too much, it's not even something that you really want to do, stop trying to plan it. That's the basis of it. You don't have to be the person who plans it. It's time for you to get some help, and I'm going to talk about what you can use for help. And believe me, I'm not talking about just hiring a travel agent. So the background for this story is my best friend decided that she wanted to take a girls trip to Bali to celebrate her 40th birthday. Now, we have been best friends for 30 plus years, so I definitely wanted to take the trip. However, she made this decision in the midst of me juggling all the things, right? I was transitioning to full-time entrepreneurship. I was building a YouTube channel. I'm coaching Black moms on kid-free vacations. I needed to get an additional $150,000 for an investment property, and pretty much every other thing that could possibly be going on in life was going on in my life. So although I'm somebody who really loves to like dive in and build travel itineraries and all of these things, I did not have the time, right? I didn't have the time to do that for this trip. And I really needed to find a way to make it more simple. So if you're someone who's like me, who you just don't have the time to plan, or you're somebody who just really doesn't like to plan, this video is going to be really valuable for you, because I'm going to be talking about the things that you can do instead of trying to plan it yourself and still be able to have a well-planned trip that is uniquely fun. All right. So the first thing I want to make sure that you don't get stuck in is the fact or the thought that you don't know how to plan trips, right? It's okay if you don't know how to plan a trip, right? You don't need to know how to plan it. You just need to know how to leverage the resources that are available to you in order to be able to plan it for you. And one of the things that really gets on my nerves is when I see like all of these pages that talk about the top 10 destinations to go to for a momcation or a getaway or a trip or whatever it is. And a lot of moms get really excited and they're like sending it to their friends, like, here are all the places we could go. But for me, I'm like, these lists get on my nerves, because what's stopping you from taking a getaway or a momcation is not knowing where to go, right? The destination is not what's stopping you. There are a whole lot of other things that are stopping you. And so, knowing the destination alone is not going to be helpful. Or at least I don't find it to be helpful for the people that I've talked to or the clients that I have. What you really need is to know how to use the information you already have, the resources you already have. You need to be able to like implement habits of moms who keep a getaway on their calendar. You also need to be able to build the skills and overcome life obstacles like mom guilt, like not having a tribe to support you to take care of your kids, like not being able to save the money to go on the trip. These are things that are going to help you go on the trip, not a list of 10 destinations you could go to. Okay. So, and side note, if you're somebody who is struggling with incorporating and building these things into your life, like, you definitely need to subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the notification bell so that you can make sure that you are alerted when I drop new videos and when I go live. And then also make sure you take a look at the link in the description that talks about working with me one-on-one, so that I can help you plan and incorporate these things into your life so that you can plan your next 3 trips. So let's get into the how I planned a week in Bali in a day. All right. So the first thing I did was I decided that I was not going to plan the trip. Other people who've already gone and travel experts were going to plan the trip, right? And so the way I did that was I'd use 2 things. One is a travel guide, and the other thing is a pre-built itinerary, right? And the difference is a travel guide is going to have all the things that you could and should do at a place, right? So for instance, one of the places that I go to look at travel guides is a page called Travel and Leisure. Pages like this I consider to be trusted sources. A trusted source is going to be a source that a lot of people use, and it's a very well-known brand of travel page or online page in the world, right? Travel Leisure is one of those pages. So I can go there and look at, here are all the main things that they say I should be doing in said location, right? The difference between a travel guide and a pre-built itinerary is that an itinerary is going to be a day-to-day layout. So this is what you do on day 1. This is what you do on day 2. This is what you do on day 3, right? And the page that I love to use for pre-built itineraries is called 36 Hours In and it's on the New York Times website, right? So 36 hours in Bali, 36 hours in Ubud, 36 hours in Mexico. I use it for every time I'm planning a trip. I always use this page because it's going to give you the absolute things that you must do if you only had 36 hours in a place, right? So obviously these are the things that you need to do. And again, the New York Times is a trusted source, right? Humongous magazine, humongous newspaper in general, but even its online presence is even larger, right? And so you absolutely can use them as a baseline, as a trusted source to be able to determine like these are the key things that you need to do. So one of the things that I say, so if you're thinking about, you have your pre-built itineraries, right? You decide you want to use a pre-built itinerary, you decide you want to use a travel guide, right? Before you even start planning, what you need to do is know the goal of your trip. And I say this all the time, and I want to say it again. Don't start doing anything for your trip before you know the goal of your trip. What do you want to get out of the trip, right? So for this trip, I asked my friend, like, what's the goal of the trip? What do you want to get out of it? So for her, she wanted to have a Eat, Pray, Love experience. If you are not familiar with Eat, Pray, Love is an old video starring Julia Roberts where she ended up getting divorced or something, and she went over to Bali, and she spent a couple of months there, and she used that time to really just reconnect with herself, get a chance to know who she was, do things she had never done before, but more importantly, tap into her inner self, right? It was a spiritual journey for her. So this is what my friend wants to do, right? She wants an experience that is restful, that is peaceful, that allows her to tap into herself spiritually and allows her to connect with her closest friends, right? So now that I know what we need to be doing, then I can go to the pre-built itineraries and the travel guides, right? So the first thing I did was I went to 36 hours in Bali, right? And I think I actually did 36 hours in Ubud specifically, but on the New York Times website, right? Because I was like, all right, if we only are gonna have a week there, what are the things that we absolutely have to do? Now, the article that I looked at was from 2017. So I decided not to use what was there because it's 2023 and I'm like, a lot has changed in travel and a lot has changed. So, but this is the first time I have never used it. I didn't use it when I went to it, right? So another thing I will tell you is make sure that you look at the date of the itinerary or the travel guide to make sure that it's relevant. And then also make sure that, especially when you're on the New York Times page, that you don't go to too many tabs, because they will end up asking you to pay and then you won't be able to see what the 36 hours in. So just go to the 36 hours. Maybe you want to copy it if you're going to try to go to another page before you leave it, because they eventually will just ask you to pay in order to see more stuff, right? Very first thing, 36 hours in. Didn't work out for this trip, but it usually works out for every other trip. The second thing I did was I went to my other favorite site, which is called Culture Trip. Now, before I was a travel coach, I planned group travel for Black and brown people to go to Black and brown countries to travel, serve, and learn. Most of the experiences that we did, really all of the experiences that we did, were immersive cultural experiences. So Culture Trip is the site that I've always used as a baseline for the things to do in a place that are unique, experiential, and tied back to the culture of the country, right? So I go to Culture Trip and I'm looking for Ubud, either itinerary or a travel guide for it. I found a itinerary for 48 hours in Ubud, right? I also learned that Ubud is the art and culture capital of Bali. So those are the experiences that we were going to be able to have in that specific city. Now you're thinking, all right, you said you planned a week and this is a 48-hour itinerary, but this is the thing. Because I knew that the goal of the trip was rest and relaxation, as well as spiritual journey and connecting with each other, although their itinerary was 48 hours, I could spread that across a bunch of days because we didn't need to do and jam pack everything into one day, right? I actually consciously made a decision to say, hey, we're only doing one thing a day and we're not doing something every day, right? Because we want to be able to just have a break. 3 of the 4 women on this trip are moms of multiple children, right? There's only one person who does not have children. And we're not trying to do the most because we're always doing the most, right? So even though it's 48 hours, I could spread it across multiple days and you can do the same thing. So just because you find a short itinerary does not mean that you can't use it, right? Put the link for that itinerary in the description as well, so that you can potentially use it if you're going to Bali. So that was number 2, was using Culture Trip. So once I knew what I wanted to do from Culture Trip, then I went to Google, right? Because Culture Trip did not know, right, that we wanted an eat, pray, love experience. And so for her to say that, I knew that she really loved that movie, and it's a really unique type of experiences that she wanted to have that's not necessarily tied to what other people who may be going to the destination want, right? So I was like, all right, let me Google an eat, pray, love itinerary, right? What are some things that I can add to the itinerary that people who are specifically only going for an eat, pray, love experience are going to want to do, right? So I Googled eat, pray, love itinerary. Now, this is something that you can do as well if you have a very specific itinerary that you want, a specific experience that you want to have in a destination, right? Or you can just use Google to find a pre-built itinerary. So one thing I would suggest that you search, for instance, is 1 week in whatever your destination is. So for me, I could have put 1 week in Ubud and Kuta in Bali, right? See what comes up. Don't go to all of the options. Find the ones that are from trusted sources, right? So is it from Travel Noir? Is it from a site called Frommers? Is it from a site called Travel and Leisure? Those are the ones that you want to go to and see what they're saying, right? So we ended up, when I did the search for Eat, Pray, Love, I ended up finding an itinerary on Frommers that was specific to Eat, Pray, Love. Now, I watched the Eat, Pray, Love movie. However, it was years ago, so I have no idea what she was doing. I just have an overall understanding of what happened in the movie. So apparently there was a shop that she went to, a restaurant that she went to while she was there, frequented to have breakfast and brunch, right? And so that is on the itinerary that I found for Frommers. So I'll link that in the description as well. But I say that because I was like, we're going to have to eat. So let me just add that to the itinerary as well, right? Now, it wasn't on the Culture Trip one, but I added it in because I knew the purpose of this trip was to be able to have those type of experiences, right? The biggest things that I saw on the Eat, Pray, Love itinerary were yoga, meditation, and eating, right? That sounds like a great girls trip, right? Yoga, meditation, and eating, right? So I was like, we can do our own meditation. I don't think I'm going to be able to get these people to do any type of yoga. However, we can definitely go eat, right? So those are the 2 things that I added to the itinerary. We can do your meditation at our own hotel, and then we're going to add this place that she went to in the movie to the itinerary, right? The name of the cafe is called Cafe Wayan Cafe Wayan and Bakery, right? So after I had all of the things, right? So now I have my itinerary. I've added in a few things from Eat, Pray, Love. Boom. It's pretty much done, right? I could just be done right now. But I want to make sure that the things that I chose are things that people have good things to say about, right? Nothing's worse than going on a trip and going on an experience and it being the worst. That just happened to some of my line sisters when we went to Colombia. They had an experience. I didn't go. It was like, I think it was like, what are they called? Four-wheelers. And apparently the food is horrible and there's plenty of reviews about the food being horrible. They didn't look at the reviews. So I'm going to look at the reviews. And the place I always go to look for reviews is TripAdvisor, right? I'm sure you've heard of TripAdvisor. I don't go to TripAdvisor to necessarily build an itinerary, right? I go to TripAdvisor for reviews on the experiences that I want to do for an itinerary, right? This makes it a lot easier. So you already know specifically what you're looking for because TripAdvisor has a lot of things and you can very easily get overwhelmed, right? So I confirmed that the Cafe Wayman and Bakery place was a good place and that it was indeed the place that they go to on Eat, Pray, Love. And then I also stumbled upon a Bali Instagram tour. So basically on there, there's a lot of different places that people who go to Bali put on Instagram. So I wanted to be able to, as I looked at it, I was like, oh, these are some of the places we're going. And these are some of the places that we might want to add if we want to have those experiences for, for the pictures, right? Because this is 4 years. She want to, the memories, right? So I ended up finding those things on TripAdvisor, and then Ubud was done, right? Ubud was done. So that's half of the trip planned already. The other half of the trip was going to be in a place called Kuta, which is another city in Bali, Indonesia. So before I decided to start planning for Kuta, I went back to RY, right? Now, Ubud has a lot of art and culture and a lot of things to do. So the days that we were there, we were going to be doing something at least every day, or every other day, right? So when I decided to figure out what to do in Kuta, I was like, when we get to Kuta, we need to be doing a little bit less, right? Because we want to make sure it's a relaxing experience and we don't want to come back significantly more tired than when we left. So what I thought about was like, maybe what is Kuta about? Like, what is this destination, right? Because if Ubud is art and culture, what's Kuta? Well, Kuta is the beach. The beach. So I was like, that's perfect. Like, perfect. Because what is a better place to do nothing other than the beach, right? So I was like, all right, I'm not going to plan anything to do in Kuta. We're just going to sit on the beach and talk and tan. Like, why would we be doing anything else? So that planned the whole rest of the trip, right? No need to come up with excursions for Kuta. I accidentally stumbled upon an excursion on TripAdvisor that was a jet ski safari, which was interesting to me because I'm the type of person, when I like to travel, I like to do adventurous things, right? And so I was like, I've jet skied before, but I've never jet skied in a safari, right? Like going through and like seeing the trees and being in the water and just like, it's giving me Indiana Jones, right? So I was like, oh, that sounds like something I might want to do. We might want to do. So just in case we do want to do something, that's there. But the goal in Kuta is really to do the least, right? That's what we're going to do, is the least. What better way to just chill out, create the girlfriend connection part, right? That she also wanted a part of the trip than just chilling out on the beach. And side note, if you're somebody who is trying to take a girlfriend's getaway, right, a momcation, a vacation, any of those things, but you're finding it hard to do and you're struggling with making it happen, make sure you go to the link in my bio, and also make sure you click the link in my description so that you can be the first to know about the first ever kid-free vacation summit, right? I'm hosting a one-day virtual summit that's focused on helping Black moms confidently take kid-free vacations. And if you want to be one of the first people to know about it, make sure you click that link so that you can be involved. All right. So here are some tips on top of the tips, right? So that's how I planned Bali, a week in Bali in one day, right? But some tips on top of the tips, right? To keep it simple. Trust the trusted source, right? Trust the trusted source. If you have a trusted source, I just gave you a few of them. I gave you 36 Hours In on the New York Times. I gave you Culture Trip. I gave you Google, and I gave you TripAdvisor. That's 4 trusted sources. Let them be the trusted source. Don't go scouring the internet for more things, right? With the, under the idea of you might be missing out on something. You are going to miss out on something. There's no way to see all the things in a week, right? It's just not possible. You can't even do that I'm in Philadelphia. You can't even do that in Philadelphia, right? Like, there's so much to see. Right? It's okay for you to miss some things. You could just always come back. It's fine. So just use those trusted sources. The goal here is planning is overwhelming. It's stressful for you. You want to make it less stressful. Just use those as the trusted sources and don't try to think and create other things on your own. The other thing is make sure that all of your decisions align with the why for your trip. So on the itinerary that I found on Culture Trip and on other itineraries that I saw, there were like excursions and things to do that just did not align with our trip, right? So one of them was like going to see monkeys in the monkey forest. I'm like, so number one, we didn't come here for that. Number two, I know that these people who we go with are not trying to see the monkeys. So we're not going to see the monkeys, right? Even though it came from a trusted source, that is out. It's okay to cross stuff off of the itinerary that you find, or even if you want to add stuff in, like I added the restaurant in, it's okay to do that too. And then also, this is a tip for moms. Do not book a whole lot of things that are going to have you waking up early in the morning, right? A lot of times tours that are all day tours require you to be up early in the morning. Just don't do it. You wake up early in the morning every day of your life with your children usually, okay? Or you're not, or you're doing work, right? So just find things that are going to start after 10 a.m. Okay. And then the last thing is look for experiences that you see across multiple itineraries. So if you are like, all right, you know, I found something on 36 hours in, I found something on culture trip, I'm trying to decide, you know, what are the things I really need to do. Look for the thing that shows up on both, right? That's going to be the thing that you definitely want to do. All right. I hope this was really helpful for you all. One of the things that I have realized is, you know, especially when you're a mom, like planning a trip is really like a lot of mental and logistical gymnastics, right? So you have to be able to streamline and make things a lot more simple in order for you to actually take the trip, right? And streamlining your planning is a huge thing because it removes the overwhelm and the stress. You don't get stuck scouring the internet. And the best thing is you can become your own travel advisor, right? Like you can be the person who knows the best time to go. You can find, you know, the recommended accommodations and experiences you want to do, and be able to put together the cost of your trip pretty easily. And if you can do this for a trip, then you can do this in any city that you're going to, and you can even do it in your city. So that's when the staycations and the daycations come into play as well, and you really just get into the habit of like being the person who knows the stuff to do and can easily find the things to do. If you like this video, I know that you are one of my people, so make sure that you like it and that you subscribe to my channel so you can learn more about being able to take the kid-free vacation that you want to take confidently. And if you want to see more of me figuring out how to take the kid-free vacations that I want to take, make sure you go follow me on Instagram at International Inez. And until we meet again, stay tripping.